Good afternoon, Alan Vandenberg here, another episode of EQ for You. Episode number 14 today. Name of the episode is How to Get Fired, Part 1. You heard that correctly, How to Get Fired, Part 1. We're operating off the idea that 75% of a person or a team's success is not their IQ. And so before we get started, back in February, launched a book called EQ Killed the Radio Star. It looks like that. How emotional intelligence can crush or crash your organization. Publisher said the best time to launch a book is during a pandemic, and that is absolutely not true. So I appreciate all those. Thanks to all of you who went out to the Norman Barnes & Noble and purchased a book. Got some reports back that I got some sales from out there, and so great. Thank you so much. The book is available at barnesandnoble.com, also at amazon.com or alanvandenberg.com. So last thing before we get started here is be sure and subscribe to the YouTube channel EQ for You. You'll get these episodes as they drop every couple of weeks or so. So now on to the topic, how to get fired, part 1. So we're looking at the foundations of how to start to build a case for you to get fired. So as a leadership coach for over 20 years, the first thing I look at and I listen for when I'm coaching people is, are they self-aware? Do they even know what their strengths and their weaknesses are? So I typically ask questions like, so why are you here? What's going on? What's working well? What's not working so well? And several years ago, I had the opportunity to attend the certification to be a certified Gallup Strengths Finder coach. And if you think about Strengths Finder, it is about addressing the importance of the EQ skill of self-awareness. And that's what they're doing there at Gallup. That's why they have Gallup Strengths Finder. And you can take the assessment. It identifies your top 34 or the 34 strengths in order. 1 through 5 is usually what I look at. Some people look at all of them, but it's why Gallup Strengths exists, to help people understand themselves better. So from our self-awareness, we use our skills and talents, and that use of skills and talents and our behavior is what's called self-management. So Gallup introduced this concept when I went to the training of this idea of strengths, balconies, and basements. Balconies are when we use our strengths in a highly efficient way, thus positively impacting ourselves, others, and the business. When we talk about basements, it's where our strengths and our EQ skills of self-awareness really are very, very low. The outcome is negative results. There's typically damaged relationships, and it's usually just not a very good outcome. So basements is when a strength, a talent, or a skill is overdone or overused too much. So when a strength is overused, and we all have strengths and talents, when they're overused, it can become a weakness. And this is the foundation, or at least the beginning of what I've seen before, is of how people begin to build the foundation for getting fired. Their strength is overdone, and it becomes a low EQ behavior, which produces a low EQ outcome. So low EQ versus high EQ. So most people don't usually get fired because they're using their strengths in a balanced way. It's usually because they use their strengths overdone, and it's usually not done over a short period of time. It's usually consistent low EQ behavior over time that produces this idea of, people get themselves in a situation where they get fired. So it's typically a series of behaviors that produce horrible decisions, inappropriate comments, nonverbal communications that offend people, and typically, the results again are not good and not productive. It's the inability of people to balance their strengths effectively. So what does strengths overdone or the basement look like in some of the Gallup Strengths 34? So the 34 strengths are identified by Gallup when you take that assessment. So let's explore a couple, 2 or 3 of these. I think it's 4 or 5 of them we want to look at here. So one is winning others over. That's a strength. What does winning others over look like when it's overdone? Well, to some people, it can feel like you're manipulating them. It's when your strengths are overdone. Another strength that's identified in Gallup is futuristic. Well, futuristic, overdone, what does that look like? Well, it looks like that you're constantly looking at the future and not aware of what's going on right now. Let's do a couple other ones. Includer, great idea. Let's include people. Overdone, it means we include so many people that we can't get the result that we're looking for. And we can't make a decision on our own. We've got to include other people. Makes us very ineffective. Competition is another strength that Gallup identifies. And competition overdone looks like this: winning at all costs, legal or not legal. Not legal can get you fired. Last one, analytical. And there's 34 of these, but I just picked out a few. Analytical. What does analytical look like? It focuses on too many details, over-analyzing things, and basically paralyzing productivity, so you can't get things done. So how to get fired? Foundation is not being able to balance your strength effectively. If we look at something like confidence, overdone is overconfidence. It causes people to do self-talk, such as, well, the company can't function without me. It's not possible. When we know the reality is that every day companies can and do operate without low EQ behavior people. Overconfidence can become a weakness and can lead to you getting fired. So let's talk about arrogance and overconfidence. Can cause people to steal from companies. I mean, what's crazy about this, have you ever wondered why you hear like a news article where somebody making $100,000 a year, that's $1 million over 10 years. They steal $20,000 from the company or the organization. From an IQ perspective, that makes no sense whatsoever. Why would you steal $20,000 when you could be making $1 million over the next 10 years? Low EQ and overconfidence and arrogance has destroyed lives, careers, and families. And overconfidence and arrogance is the foundation also too for disrespect, harassment, and inappropriate language in the workplace. So here they are, the top 5 reasons that you can use, or top keys that you can use to get fired. And if done consistently, you will meet your goal of getting fired. Number 1, continue to avoid self-awareness and self-management. Don't know yourself, do not understand yourself, and certainly do not manage yourself. And consistently over time, this will get you fired. Find the strengths and gifts that you have and overuse them around coworkers and especially around leadership and your boss. So for instance, if you have an opinion and you're an opinionated person, please state your opinion over and over, correcting your boss all the time, and if possible, do that in public. This will get you fired. Number 3, don't listen to others, ever, when they give you feedback. Maybe even call them idiots when they're trying to give you feedback. That way they will never give you feedback again. Keys to getting fired, that was number 3. Number 4, keys to getting fired. Try as much as possible to overshadow your boss and make them look stupid. Number 5, come to work with arrogance and overconfidence and display that everywhere you can to everybody. All right, hopefully this was helpful, always kind of fun. Use these 5 low EQ behaviors to get yourself fired, and you may not get fired right away, but eventually if you use these consistently over time, it will get you to the goal. It will get you well on your way to what your desired result is, and that is getting fired. So hopefully you had fun with this. This is part 1. I have a part 2 coming up here in a couple weeks. EQ for you, how to get fired, part 1, and there it was. So we got a part 2 coming up here in a couple weeks where we will discuss a real life example of someone whose low EQ behavior got them fired from a very famous rock band. Why and how this happened, we will talk about that in the next episode. So I leave you with this. words to live by, if you will. Find what you are made to do and do that to the best of your ability. Number 2, don't allow anyone or anything to steal your joy and your happiness. And number 3, live life to the fullest every day, because nothing is guaranteed. So there it is, EQ for you, how to get fired part 1. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with this topic. So reach out on social media. I'd love to connect with you, talk with you. I know we're in this kind of still lockdown world a little bit, where we're not meeting a lot of people, although it's opened up a little bit. But I'd love to hear from you and chat with you on social media, wherever you're watching this and listening to this. And have a great day. Talk to you soon. Thanks.